Hey, Pasa Calexico. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm back in Calexico Brewing Company. Feels like coming back home, like my guest kind of has done in the last couple of months. But let me do the intro of who my guest is. My guest is a fellow podcaster. He is the. It says on the website you're a specialty brewer and also the brand ambassador for Ballast Point.
That's correct. Maybe not so much a specialty brewer anymore. I don't do a lot of brewing, so anybody that's listening that works with me is like, that fool doesn't brew no more. Get out of here. So nah.
And he's also a fellow Caleciano. So my guest today is Jeff Lozano. Thank you for spending some time today here with me and enjoying a beer and sharing this shit.
Hey, you don't have to twist my arm, dude. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Like I was telling you earlier when we were chatting, I think it's important what you're doing. Your podcasting is such a awesome way of communicating and to just voicing and amplifying messages. And you're doing that for a city. That's kind of cool because there's so many podcasts that are just focused on industries or they're focused on niches, right? Like, painting or, licorice or whatever the hell. But you're basically trying to just tell the city's story, and the city is just comprised of people, right? So that's kind of cool.
And sometimes it varies because one of my favorite guests was this girl from a border town in Texas that I found on TikTok. She does voices for like Walmart and TJ Maxx. So the voice you hear on the
smooth
on the speakers, it's her. And I reached out to her and like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? And the funny thing is that I kind of wanted to learn about the voiceover field, but we talked more about being border town kids and what it's like. And even though she's from Texas, there was a lot of similarities between me here in Calexico and her. And
it's a different breed, dude.
Yeah, and I don't remember the name of the town, but it's in Texas. So yeah, I mean, my goal is to obviously show off the people from not only Calexico but the Valley. I think and it's something that I kind of people probably get tired of listening to me saying this, but during the pandemic, I realized that, we all have pride for our cities, Calexico, El Centro, but in the end of the day is we're from the Imperial Valley, because when shit hit the fan during the pandemic, it was our little, our area that, trying
magnified here.
Yeah.
I bet.
So, it made me realize that, we got to be proud of being from this, because you zoom out on Google Maps or Google Earth, and it's like this oasis in the middle of the desert. So we got to be proud of, the valley, the Imperial Valley. Because
I agree with you, man. I agree with you more than 1,000%. And people forget. People forget when you're growing up. At least when I was growing up, everybody wanted to get out. Everybody wanted to detach themselves from the valley. It didn't seem like a land of opportunity. But then, at least for me and a few of my close friends that are from the Imperial Valley, as we've grown, it's nice to reflect and see exactly what you were actually a part of. And there's so much raw talent. I say this all the time. There's so much talent and artistic creativity that comes out of this place. Yeah. And I think it's because this place doesn't have a lot to offer. And when you're stuck in a spot where your options don't, there's not a multitude of options. The next thing that you have to do is just sit around and be creative and be artistic and think. Yeah. And a lot of big cities, they're just about the hustle and bustle, right? They're about the next, let's go, go, go. They're about the rat race. And they don't sit around and think creatively. And so at least I don't know if this is how it's been for you, but I can't say that I can identify somebody from the Imperial Valley all the time, but they just have this thing. And I go like, oh, that's very interesting. And I can tell that you're from a small town because that's a very creative and interesting way of looking at life. And I cherish that,
Yeah. And you mentioned that, there's not much to do and kind of maybe in a way you're saying that, life's kind of slow.
Yeah.
So whenever I go to like San Diego or LA, like big cities, that's one of the things that I don't like about going to, big cities like that. Like you're always like if you want to go somewhere, you got to be, plan things out really good because traffic and, all these variables that traveling in big cities, you're always hustling and bustling and there's accidents there that happen in a blink of an eye. So here in Calexico, in the Valley, it's like, I want to go to Brawley. I know that it's 30 minutes. I can make it there, so I'll leave my house like 30 minutes before I have to be there. Or
it makes it easy to plan trips.
So, that's something that I enjoy about, living here in the Valley. And speaking of that, tell us a little bit about you growing up here in Calexico. Were you born and raised here, or?
No, I was born in Long Beach, California.
Oh, okay.
Long Beach Memorial. But I didn't spend too much time over there. I came to the Valley, and came because of my dad's work. I was pretty young. So for all intents and purposes, kindergarten through high school, I was in the Imperial Valley. I lived in El Centro for a while. So I went kindergarten through first grade in El Centro, California. And we lived there in an apartment complex for a while. And then I came over to Calexico second grade. And then I just stayed here. That's from my schooling, second grade until I graduated. Barely graduated.
What elementary did you go to?
Hedrick and in El Centro, and then Blanche Charles. I was a Blanche Charles Dolphin boy. We had hallways. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's the only school. Actually, the only school. Kennedy Gardens has a couple of classes that are like inside, and then the rest are outside.
It seems kind of mean when you really think about it. Like, bro, give the kids some hallways. Give them some AC. Yeah. But we had some hallways. We had some AC. Not always though. I think I was in Blanche Charles amidst the transition, because when it was pure trailers into the infrastructure that it was, and now it's a nice elementary school. But I think if I'm correct, I think there was a time where it was just all trailers outside.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, straight across the street to Willie Moreno. That's where that's where I really started to build my friend base, and everybody that I still talk to from the Imperial Valley that I consider a friend. Most of them I met in Willie Moreno, and then everybody just funneled into the high school. And then that's all she wrote, So as far as my preliminary education, it was all here in Calexico. Yeah, it was great.
Did you play any sports?
I tried. I was a punk kid, dude. That was what I was. I was such a brat. And I remember in Willie Moreno, Mr. Bilderback, thank you for shattering my dreams. They were starting, recruiting for football. And by the way, if you saw me, it was obvious that I wasn't going to be a football player, dude. I was full of piercings. I had a pink backpack. I had pink shoes. I was all about the punk rock scene. But for whatever reason, I was like, maybe I should try out for the football team. Yeah. So I walk into the gymnasium with, looking like I just came out of a Hot Topic, and then Bilderback, he looks at me and goes like, no, not happening. I'm like, what? I can already tell this is not going to be a good fit for you. I'm like, So I literally walked in, turned around, and I never touched a sport again. I picked up a skateboard and a guitar, and that was the rest of my life, dude. Which is great.
Yeah. What year did you graduate from Calexico?
05. 05. Okay. Barely.
Oh, really?
Dude, when I say barely, I mean barely. When you sit down and you're kind of going through the pre-rehearsal for the walk or the ceremony. Dude, in our rehearstal, I had a counselor kind of like come down and go, hey, Jeff, you want to come over here real quick? I'm like, what's up? So I get up and dude, it's a rehearsal. Everybody's there. And she pulls me aside and she goes like, what are you doing? And I go like, well, I'm rehearsing for the graduation. We're like, we're not sure you're going to graduate.
We're still counting.
I was that close. And I was like, oh, okay. So, what do I do? And, all the maneuvers that I had to do, all the hurdles and the hoops that I needed to jump through, they secured my barely passing GPA. I liked school. I wasn't good at school, but I appreciated school, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that I was the same. For the most part, I got good grades, but once I got to high school, it got really boring for me. And then I got lucky enough where I was already working like my junior year. I was like tutoring at De Anza. And then I went to tutoring from kind of doing what I'm doing now. When I was tutoring junior, like going to senior, one of my bosses like, oh, can you tell this kid if he wants to help me with the computers? I asked the kids like, no, I'm busy with tennis. I'm like, oh, well, show me and I'll help you out. So that's kind of like how I started with my job. So,
yeah.
So like when I was in school, I was like, you know what, I don't want to be here. I would rather be, working. So
was it because you kind of already had reached terminal velocity, I guess? Were you just not stimulated anymore?
I think so.
Like you felt that there was really nothing, academically at least, to learn?
Probably, yeah, that, and then in the transition from freshman to sophomore year, I kind of like I stopped talking to my friends. Something happened there that
drama, bro. Ooh, spill
drama.
The tea, dog.
And I went from being the jock. I was a jock in my freshman year to like being like this trasher. Like I didn't know how to skate, but I kind of like I was a poser.
There's a lot of kids that did that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of kids that kind of flip flopped between being on the football team, once a bulldog, always a bulldog or whatever, and they just picked up a skateboard and they fell in love with it. And I think it's kind of cool because it was a good blend. I don't know if this is how you thought about it, but it's like a blend between structure, teamwork, and rules. And then the other side of it, like the thrasher, philosophy and that lifestyle is more like, bro, I got a board. Let's go. Punk rock. I can go wherever I want. I can shred whatever I want. Yeah. And it's kind of like this freedom almost.
Yeah. And I started, the infrastructure, the daily routine of practice and all these shit. Like, I was like, you know what, rather, go out and shoot the shit with my friends, even though I didn't know how to skate, like, I'll go watch them and, just.
Oh, nobody knew how to skate, dude. There's only like 4 people in this town that really knew how to skate when I was in that. Like, they knew how to skate. We were talking about Doofus.
Yeah.
Doofus was like, dude, that guy was wild, bro. He was just kind of there was guys like Ivanhoe. There was guys like even this kid named Nico. I remember, dude. Shout out Nico if you're listening. But he was a good skater. But then everybody else just kind of sucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's when they opened like that skate park over by in the Nosotros Park, I think.
Yeah, that was around. That's where I grew up. Before I moved to this side of town, like near the high school, I grew up on Platero Street, and Platero Street was right next to that baseball stadium or that softball stadium where they built the skate park. That was my hood, man. Yeah, growing up. Yeah, that was those are fun times.
Yeah. And going back to that punk rock era, were you in a band at some point?
I was in a few bands. We were talking about the scene, and the scene was whatever you want to call it. I would say alive, because it was like every weekend there was a backyard gig. Every weekend there was a show, and there was just a bunch of punk rockers getting together. And one of the interesting things about that era, and I'm sure you remember, is kind of the nice blend between the punk rockers, the piss drunks, the cholos, and they were just all there, just kind of shooting the shit. And then there was just punk rock bands. Yeah. And I was in a couple of punk rock bands, with the guy that he used to be known as, or he's known as Biggie. Do you know Marco Hernandez, Biggie?
Yeah.
He's my boy, dude. He was my boy. We were in a band.
Pictures
yeah. Martin Ronquillo. Yeah. He plays with cover bands. He's still doing it, dude. He's like with a Smith cover band and a Cure cover band. And then this guy named Raul used to be our drummer. He lives up in Berkeley now. But we were all just, we were all on the circuit. And I was in a band called The Fuss, Fuss. And we had some fun. We had some fun times, dude. But
and it was the band? Was it local, or were you already in San Diego when you?
No, it was all here. As soon as I moved to San Diego, it all fell apart. Yeah. I didn't have any time for bands or anything like that. I still played a lot acoustic, and I still kept up with it, but there was no more bands.
Okay,
that was all my childhood.
Yeah, and that's something that I do remember from those days where backyard hangouts, people.
Hell yeah.
And it was cool because there was a lot of the times there was people that weren't even from Calexico that were hanging out, and everything was cool. Like, people weren't trying to fight or it
was pretty cool, man. I mean, there was fights, but they were fun fights. They're like everybody. There was fights for the sake of fighting. There was like fights not because anybody had beef, but there's like, hey, you think you can take me? Yeah, I think I can take you. I don't think you can. Oh, let's go test it, or literally. Yeah. And they were just like, all right, you want to fight? Yeah, let's body blows. Okay, cool. And it was just like that. Yeah. But there was something innocent about it. It was cool.
Yeah, I think that whole punk era, punk rock era was really cool. And it's funny because I don't know if you're good. You're okay.
Yeah, you're good. Howdy. Come on in.
Because back in the days it was like a lot of MTV and watch, and it was kind of sad that yesterday or a couple of days ago they kind of closed down the MTV News. They're like,
yeah, end of an era, man.
Yeah,
end of an era. But it was fun, and I met a lot of dear friends, a lot of whom which I still talk to today. And we were talking about kind of the breed, the Valley breed. And there's something different about the friendships. Like now that I live in San Diego, in San Diego, you notice that, there's just like any city, there's cliques and there's friendships and there's old time, friends, but there's kind of like a different magnetism in the Imperial Valley, at least that I could see it. Like you can feel it. You're like, you're from a small town. You have this vibe about you that says that you're from a small town, and it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's more like a praise than it is like an outcasting thing. And I think that it has to do with just everybody was kind of embracing, whatever we were embracing at that time,
And I think it's cool,
Together.
as an adult now, like as a 41-year-old, I kind of enjoy seeing like the people from, and I mentioned them a lot, even though, I have, I like coming here where we're at right now, Calexico Brewing Company, because, I get to talk to Robert and Jose Luis, and then there's people that come in that we get to chat. But I think that, El Centro and Meshka and the bar and Ernie and what's the guy from Discord? I always forget his name. I forget his name, but that little clique right there, they always have like this one thing that, you have family members from Sacramento came down a couple months ago and we took them to the bar and they're like, man, this is so cool that, everybody here knows everybody and like they're all having fun and they, that one time we went, they had an art show for the Humane Society. They were, donating. So, they do all these things that, it's for their community. And I think that, we were talking about, before we started recording about Calexico and how it's like, kind of like missing something.
It is missing something. What do you think it's missing? You talked to a lot of people here. What do you think it's missing?
I don't know. I think we're missing that where, we're not, throwing at each other like shit at each other. We're just there to have fun and to help out the community. I think there's still that high school vibe where like there's cliques. And I mean, other cities have it. But I feel that, they do have like this one group that is doing.
Yeah. That happens in small towns, man, because it's so provincial. And so you get out of high school, but it's still high school as far as the population is concerned. It's like, there's not a lot of places to go that you're still not going to bump into the same people, right? A lot of the benefit of being in a big city is that you kind of detach from the normality of those cliques, and then you evolve, right? And you get a taste of different atmosphere, different philosophies, different shit. And then you come back to the same people that, at one point you didn't have anything in common with, and now you've broadened your horizons and you can build bridges with that person, and it acts as in a lot of times it acts as icebreakers for these guys, and here it's kind of, you're still kind of in a small little subset.
Yeah, and I think what sometimes it has to do with is that people don't let other people into their group, like new people. It's always the same,
it's a shame.
Like for me, I talk to a lot of people from high school, but my main friends are people that, back in high school, I had no idea who they were.
Right.
Like my friend Alex, he's I'm not gonna say way older than me because he's gonna get pissed, but he's like older than me. My two closest friends are older than me. And, we have a lot of fun. We go out on trips. We hang out, and it's like whenever I get to see people from high school, I still talk to them and I introduce them to my older crowd of friends. And and
that's great.
It's different ideas that, because, I think that high school mentality has to like kind of like,
it's tribal, and it's with everybody. I think it's more biological and natural than we might think. But in the town like this, it's just the group identity is so fortified. I am a jock. I played high school football. I was a punk and I didn't care about high school football. And the polarity really hits. And then, for all intents and purposes, your friends are still around. So there's no, in a world or in an environment where, 85% of your clique disappears, that small little percentage is going to find another home, and it's going to be easier for you to bleed in and out of different little groups and ideas and identities and identity groups. And when all your homies are still around, well, there's no need for you to kind of go out there and venture and to see what's new with this, especially with people that you never had anything in common with. That's a hard one. It's not until you guys get stuck at the same table, you guys get seated at the same table and you're like, oh, hey, so what's up? I know you. Yeah, I know you too. Yeah, you used to go to, that was me. And then that's sometimes you got to get forced into it, but it's such a beautiful thing, right? Dude, I've had so many people that I've had beautiful conversations with that I didn't ever in my wildest dreams think that I would ever talk to them after high school. And then I meet up with them and we break some common ground and they end up being super dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me too, where like, you're at a party or now that, I have older kids that, you go to quinceañeras and you end up, you know that, this quinceañeras that is, somebody I went to high school's daughter or whatever.
Yeah.
And, they're really good friends with my son and like, then, you start hanging out and stuff like that. It's happened to me where you're kind of forced into talking but it's happened where like we talk and we continue talking.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like a weird little mixer. Yeah, have you ever been to a mixer? They're super uncomfortable and lame. But once in a while, you're going to meet some really cool people that you would not have otherwise met if it wasn't for this mixer or this reason to all be here, I bumped into so many people, at least for a while, because then I stopped remembering anything, at the this Oktoberfest that these guys threw, Calexico Brewing, right here at the park. Dude, I got so drunk. It was awesome. Maybe not for everybody else, but for me, I was having a blast.
Yeah, I got so drunk.
Oh, dude, it was awesome, dude. But I got noticeably drunk, to the point where like, yo, this guy's drunk. But it was fun because, dude, one of the things that I love about what I do, one of the things that I love about my industry is that I get excited about people. I get excited about seeing old friends now. I get excited about seeing people that now I have a reason to talk to them. It's kind of an icebreaker, right? If I see somebody now that I haven't talked to in a long time, I don't mind going up and shooting the shit with them over a beer. It's like the beer is almost like the icebreaker. It's like, hey, what are you drinking? It's an easy commitment there, And like at that Oktoberfest, I just remember seeing so many old friends and I just got so excited and I got drunk.
And I think that's one of the things that Calexico's missing where, growing up, we had like the 4th of July, the Cinco de Mayo, 16 de septiembre events at Come Park. And we haven't done those in like years.
Let's do it.
I think the last event was, Oktoberfest. So, and not even the mariachi,
Let's do it.
Yeah, we should. I mean, yeah.
We'll talk after this.
Yeah.
And we'll make something happen because I think I agree with you, man. I think that we were talking about what this city is missing, what this county is missing. And no offense to anybody listening that says, dude, I have that. We already have that. I'm not. Yes, but not really. Because if you really did have it as a city, it'd be palpable. You'd be able to feel it no matter where you're at, right? And I think like Calexico especially, there's so many opportunities here to create union or like, events that are going to bring people together. And the commonalities are not that scarce. There's people that like the same shit that you do. You just don't know it until you make something happen. And then they come in to check it out and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that a guy like you or a girl like you would be interested in this. And then boom, there you go. And you start creating this atmosphere.
I think Imperial has that where...
do they? Yeah, I don't know.
They do events like... I went to Brews and Barbecue, I think it was.
I saw that was happening.
And it was a nice event. They had music, they had I think it was tri-tip that day or something, cook-off.
How's the barbecue though?
It was good.
Yeah.
They had different, areas that somebody that I'm going to shout out and I've been to their place and hopefully I get to interview them, but Salt and Cedar in Imperial.
Oh yeah, dude. I know those too. Yeah, really get him on the show, dude. That guy's wild. He's cool.
Yeah, we've been kind of like, trying to schedule. We've been having scheduling problems, but yeah, he's on my list.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, that barbecue is really really good. But yeah, Imperial has those events where they do it on the main street, and they're one of the cities where like I've been kind of like thinking of moving to.
Oh, bro, why don't you stay? You're here in Calexico, right?
Yeah,
why don't you stay here? And everything that you love about Imperial, why don't you build it here? And you don't have to go anywhere. You can just bring it here. Everything that you love about Imperial, besides the people are beautiful. You can build it here. Yeah. Let's build it here. That's one of the things that I've been excited about. I came back to Calexico to live. It's only temporary. But I've been in San Diego forever, and I came back recently, family matters and stuff like that. But while I'm here, I've been collaborating with Ernie, and I've been trying to get back in touch with Calexico because I see the potential, man. And listening to your show, there's so many people that are about it, but they're about it in their own little worlds. Yeah. It's time for everybody to be about it in one world, right? And I think it's closer than we think. I think we can create something larger, bigger than even Imperial might have. I think we can create it here. And that's kind of what I'm excited about. Like, that's kind of why I'm excited about what you're doing, because you're having these conversations. You're being able to download everybody's philosophy. You're able to really kind of focus in on where people are coming from and where they want to go. And for the most part, I don't think people want to leave Calexico. I think they want to leave Calexico because there's nothing for them here. So you got one of two options. You either leave and find what you're looking for, or you can create it here. And the latter is hard, but it's something beautiful. You at the end of your life, if you participated in bringing up your city, that's something that you can really hang your hat on.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's something that I've thought about, but just having that common, link between all these people that have gone to talk to and kind of learn from is something that I'm still trying to figure out, what it is.
I think you're doing it. And you might not be completely convinced that you're doing it because what you're doing is sitting down and telling people stories about a city. So as a side effect of that, you're giving the city a flavor. You're giving the city a story through your podcast, right? And I podcast too, and I've come to discover that I like sitting down and shooting the shit over a couple of beers with interesting people. But what I get from it is this new energy, and I come out of my podcast so juiced because typically I'm talking to people that are doing cooler shit than I'm doing, and so I'm downloading it and I'm going like, you know what, that's awesome. If he can do it or if she can do it, I think I can do it. And you're doing that with your show. You're talking to people that are trying to do the same thing that we're fantasizing about. They're already putting in the groundwork, and you are too.
It's funny because my wife laughs at me. She laughs at me because I'll say like, "Oh yeah, my friend." Like, he's not your friend. Just interviewed him.
Hey, dude, a podcast is all it takes. They're your friends.
And like, we'll talk to on Instagram or Facebook, and like, "Oh yeah, I was talking to my friend." He's like, "What friend?" Well, the guy interviews, dude, he's not your friend.
Really? Yeah. Look, we follow each other. He gave me a like. I think that classifies as a friend. But
before we, this is a good conversation. But I want to talk to you about how you leaving to San Diego and how you started at Ballast Point.
Yeah. Let's get into it, dude. You're empty. Do you want to? I brought some beer, by the way. Yeah. Well, they're pretty cold. We have Sculpin is a beer that we are known for. That's probably the most popular beer that we have ever created. There's Haze in the Park, which is not Ballast Point. It's actually Kings and Convicts, and Kings and Convicts now owns Ballast Point. So they're kind of two peas in a pod. They're all in the same. And then we have a very bright can over there. It's called our Watermelon Dorado. It is a double IPA with watermelon, and it kind of just depends on what your afternoon is going to look like, because that's going to take you places, dude. Yeah, that's 10%. But it tastes good. I'll split it with you if you want.
You want to split this one?
It's up to you. You can have whatever you'd like.
I think I'm gonna save this one so I can share it with my wife, because I think she might like it.
Oh, look at you. There you go. Man, you're playing chess over here.
Yeah. So let's see. Which one has the lowest?
They might both be 7% as far as
6.2.
6.2, and then that's 7. Okay. See, it's not too much of a difference. Just do the 7. Yeah, just do the 7, dude.
I think this was my first IPA I ever had. Back in, I don't know when it was.
That was a good pop.
That was a
good crack.
And to be honest, back then I didn't have the taste for IPAs. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what the fuck is this shit? But then, I was the same way. But then, I think, it was something new that I don't know. I didn't like, but now, you know,
Well, it was something new for the whole West Coast. Sculpin became a quintessential West Coast IPA. It kind of terraformed a lot of the beer culture. A lot of people that weren't around when craft beer really started to explode. I consider myself in the group that wasn't around. I just piggybacked off the evolution, right? But Sculpin is, I mean, that's on the Mount Rushmore of beers, right? You got Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which everybody, you know, bows down to Sierra Nevada because Pale Ale, even for me, it's probably one of my favorite beers on the planet. But then there was some other beers that kind of came into the mix. Stone came in with their IPA, really setting the tone. You know, you have beers that are cult classics like Pliny the Elder from Russian River, and Sculpin. Sculpin is now become a household West Coast style IPA. That's everybody knows Sculpin.
Did you ever have Tricera hops?
Yeah, Tricera hops. Another beer that just opened a lot of floodgates for people because people thought, and understandably so, people thought that IPAs were going to be bitter and enamel ripping and oh my God, I can't handle this shit, you know, because bitter's not a pleasant flavor. There's a reason why pharmaceutical companies cover or coat their pills in bitterness or bitter substance. It's because you don't naturally want bitter. It's like bile or something like that. But when you couple it with sweetness and you learn how to balance the two, then it becomes something pleasurable. So bitter was really hard for people to get their heads around or their taste buds around. But then just like coffee, just like beer itself, it's an acclimated taste, right? You start to kind of like it. And then the bitter wars took off. Everybody wanted to make the most bitter beer. You can't even handle this beer. You know what I mean? Stone's making beers called Arrogant Bastard. And on the label, it said, you can't handle this beer. That's why I liked it. I didn't even like the beer. I would walk around with the Stone Arrogant Bastard and just with the label out so people knew that I was a boss. And we're like, see this? It says here on the label that you can't even handle this.
I don't think, I think Arrogant Bastard is one of those that I still like, I'll have one just if you know, like, oh, we have, you know, I'll have this, you know, because I have a couple because my friend came over and he brought them, he left them in my cooler. So like, I'm like, you know, I'll have them every so often, but those are like, you know, 9 or 10%. I think I have a 10% one.
Yeah, they did a lot of varieties and renditions of it, but
so yeah, those are like some of the ones that I don't kind of like mess with.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess to bring it around, I work for Ballast Point. That's the only brewery I've ever worked for. So since I entered the industry, it's been Ballast Point. And so I have an affinity, obviously, and a love towards our beers and our products. And I think we do them spectacularly well. But when you become engulfed in the craft beer culture, it's safe to say that you're going to find your favorite beers probably somewhere else, right? And Sculpin, for me, wasn't a gateway beer, but it was for a little bit of time, and then I kind of went on to enjoy other beers. But Ballast Point, we've done a really good job of having a very broad portfolio where you can find, you know, our Longfin Helles style lager, which is just a crisp, easy drinking beer, all the way to our Victory at Sea Imperial Porter, which is an Imperial 10% porter with coffee and vanilla, and then everything in between. So Ballast Point has been kind of a great example of having a broad spectrum array of beers for just everybody to enjoy, right? So like you can stumble in to one of our tasting rooms with somebody that likes an IPA, somebody that hates an IPA, somebody that loves, you know, an amber ale that with somebody that only is looking for something, you know, spritzy like a seltzer. Like our tasting room has been able to accommodate for everybody. So that's kind of something that I'm proud of, but I never homebrewed a day in my life before starting at Ballast Point. So it's kind of strange that I got into the beer industry, other than the fact that I really like drinking beer.
How did you start at Ballast Point?
So I had just finished up nursing school. So I moved out of the Imperial Valley to pursue a nursing career. That nursing career, or that light at the end of the tunnel, it was guided by like my parents. It was guided by a few. It wasn't what I wanted, but there was security. There was like a security component to it. There was a financial component to it because you make pretty good money as a nurse. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. Left the Imperial Valley to pursue a nursing degree. And I did. but it wasn't what I wanted to do at the end of the day. I worked at a restaurant, putting myself, as I was going to nursing school, I worked at a restaurant, and that restaurant had a small but mighty craft beer portfolio. And so I remember having Stone for the first time because of it, Ballast Point beers because of it, the Lost Abbey. I remember there was a brewery called Lightning Brewery that had a great Hefeweizen. And so I started really kind of like getting into craft beer. The turning point for me, and I still remember it. I have family in Redlands, right? So up in the San Bernardino area, specifically Mentone. And my cousin, he's one of my best friends. He takes me to this little brewery that was up and coming called Hangar 24. You might know who they are now because they've been popular for their orange wheat. I think they are Anheuser-Busch now. I might stand corrected, but anyways, they grew fast. They got acquired, but at the time, I think they were still independent. Mm-hmm. We stumbled into this brewery, and I remember waiting in line for a beer, and there was people like workers coming in and across our line. I'm in line, and there was like people going, excuse me. I'm like, what? Okay. Toting and pushing raw materials for the brew house through. That's how small it was. There was no like separate tasting room. The tasting room was kind of blended into the brewery. So you really saw what they were doing up close, right? So you'd get to the bar, you'd order your beer, and while you're waiting for your pour, you just turn left and you see the people making the beer. That was cool. But what really captivated me, and if you've been to Hangar 24, you know what I'm talking about. It's literally an airplane hangar. Like it's a hangar that's been transformed into a brewery. And as the evening started to roll in, it started to fill up. And I was like, I had never seen anything like this before. And so it started to roll up. And I always thought the breweries were for adults. I mean, I always thought breweries were like, this is where you get drunk and bar fights and stuff like that. This is no place for families or children. But families were rolling in, bikers were rolling in, professional, exec in their suit and ties were rolling in. And I was just like, this is crazy. This is awesome. Everybody's congregating here. A guy in flip-flops and a guy in wing-tipped, expensive shoes are just shooting the shit at this brewery. And it's a warehouse. Yeah. I fell in love with that concept. I didn't understand it yet, but for me, it was just kind of like, it was almost like a church where you can have fun, where you can drink and have fun, more than wine and a couple of crackers. And so I took that, I came back to San Diego, and then I started paying attention. And once I started paying attention, I realized that as beautiful as a hospital is, as much as great things happen inside of a hospital, babies are born, people are fixed and taken care of and cured. There's a lot more of the somber component of it. And I got to a point in my life where I made a philosophical decision. And it was, what do I want to engulf my life with? This component of life, or a life that's a little bit more joyful, cheerful, jovial, drinking beer, and if I could tailor my life, I wasn't married, I had no kids, right? So if I could tailor my life that way, if I can just make a life or living out of having a good time and meeting interesting people and drinking beer, fuck it, let's do it. And I did. So I stopped pursuing my nursing degree, and I applied to every brewery that I could possibly imagine. I was ready to leave the state, maybe leave the country. I just got on a resume spree, and I applied to Stone countless times, dude. I applied to Rogue in Oregon. I applied to Hangar 24, obviously. I applied to all these crickets, nothing. I heard nothing back from any of these guys. And I applied to Ballast Point. I was selling Ballast Point at the restaurant, so I knew them. And I applied to Ballast Point. And at the time, their president was the only one that responded back to me. I must have emailed everybody on the Ballast Point list. And the top dog was the one that finally got back to me and said, hey, we have a position for you. It's a facilities coordinator position. So if you want it, you can come in and have an interview. And I just said, you know what? Yes. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what the pay was. I didn't know what the schedule was. I just said yes. And so I come in, and facilities coordinator, by the way, for anybody listening, is just janitor. That's all it is.
It's a fancy name.
It's a fancy way of saying that I'm going to scrub crap off porcelain. But, you know, to brewers out there or cellarmen or anybody in the brewing industry, they know damn well that there's a lot of cleaning that happens in a brewery. We're just glorified janitors, as my friend S.A. used to say. And so it was not only a janitor's position, it was a part-time janitor's position. And it wasn't only just a part-time janitor's position. It was a graveyard, weekend-only part-time position. So I would clock in at 9 p.m. on a Friday, and I'd clock out at 6 a.m. on a Monday, and I would just clean up, right? And it was probably, after all the things that I've been able to do for Ballast Point, I miss those days the most. I miss those days the most, dude. So yeah, dude, I went to nursing school, quit it, became a janitor, and then it was the right place, right time kind of deal. And I hit everything. I hit the production line. I was a keger. I was a filter technician. I was a cellarman. I was a specialty brewer. I was, and now I'm more or less a brand ambassador for the company, which is just this cringy, nerdy way of saying that, like, I do a lot of the PR. I'm the voice of the company. In a lot of cases, I'm the face of the company. And I just kind of go around and tell my story, tell the brewery's story, and I get to drink beer and have cool conversations.
Yeah, and because I've heard, some of the podcasts you've been on, the Emo Brown, and then what was the other one? The last we talked about it earlier. The two girls.
Odd pairing.
The odd pairing.
Yeah.
And I was listening to those episodes, and it's funny how you went from being this night shift custodian to to what you are now, and
it's a fun journey, dude.
And you're also when you're involved with the Padres a lot, with the
yeah. So we have a partnership with the Padres as far as Ballast Point is concerned. We are the official craft beer of the San Diego Padres. I have to say it that way, and it's been nice because of that position, and because I just for what it's worth, I just love telling the stories. I love communicating the passion behind the beers. And a lot of brewers and a lot of cellarmen, not only are they not as, I don't know how the best way to say it, they're just not interested in doing that. They want to just make the beer. They want to drink the beer. They don't need to go on a campaign where they go around talking about it. And that's where I come in. So I get to tell the story about the brewers, about the cellarmen, about the warehouse guys, the guys that are working their asses off to try to get the beer out the door. And I love doing that.
And it's funny because, listening to these podcasts where you've been on, it seems like you enjoy talking and telling your story and other people's stories. It's something that I was like, he's really well spoken, and
oh, thanks, dude.
You have this voice, I don't know, like a radio voice, and
it's fake. I just do it. I do it every time you've heard me on a podcast. It's fake. It's AI.
But I was like, what? He's the perfect person for that job.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Because I don't know, you like. I don't know if you know everything you talk about, but like you tell stories, you talk about how this is made, or all these things that you talk about. It's like I believe them. I don't know if
well, no, they're true, man. I mean, I'm just messing around when I say that it's fake. It's all factual, man. I mean, a lot of the reasons why I can even convey that message so well, it's because I did it. When I'm talking about making the beer, dude, I did it. If I'm talking about the warehouse. Or the production, I was there. So I can articulate it a little bit better. And then I've been able to meet the owners. I've been able to meet the OGs. They're my friends. I'm just communicating their passions and doing the best to my ability to try to convey their message, and I like it.
Hey guys, sorry for the interruption, but I wanted to take this time to thank my sponsors. I want to thank my longtime sponsors, my friend Camilo Garcia, Eddie Lopez from Roots Creative, and my friend Jake. Thank you guys for being longtime sponsors of the podcast. I also want to thank my friends who sponsored the podcast in 2022. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your sponsorship. And if you want to become a sponsor, you can go to anchor.fm/Que Pasa Calexico. hit the support button and you can sponsor the podcast from 99 cents a month to $10 a month. It really helps me a lot to make this podcast better, sound better, look better, and reach out more people by promoting the podcast in social media and other websites. So if you want to become a sponsor, make sure to go to my Anchor page, and I'll leave a link in the description of the show. So thank you so much. And now back to the show. Yeah. And it's funny because, Ballast Point has gone through a lot of changes.
A lot.
They went from being a, local brewery in San Diego, which is kind of like the mecca of brewery,
I would say it is.
And then it went from, getting bought by, who bought them?
Constellation Brands.
Constellation. And then, they kind of like, they were let go by Constellation, and then somebody else bought them. Mm-hmm. But it's, it's been a lot of changes. And I mean, Ballast Point isn't that old, if you think about it.
Yeah. Relatively speaking, it's not that old.
No,
but we kind of were trailblazers. And when I say we, I consider myself a part of even the past, right? Even though I wasn't there, still they did a good job. We did a good job of being able to put craft beer on the map and get people to really respect it. Yeah. And then, companies like Stone and, breweries like Carl Strauss and Coronado, all these San Diego, powerhouse breweries, they were able to kind of bring it up, and San Diego became a mecca of craft beer. There's a few other cities sprinkled around the country that are, just as big, right? Portland and Denver, all these places that are big in craft beer. But San Diego, no doubt about it, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, right? And what Ballast Point was able to do was say, no, we're a part of this. And it's here to stay, and craft beer is a thing now.
And I think it was a good idea to branch out with Constellation, because it kind of helped them, help them grow bigger and make their beer get, nationwide. Not only in the West Coast. It was, nationwide, where like people can taste what Ballast Point was all about.
Yeah, that's one of the positives. I'm glad you brought that up, because everybody likes to shit on us for the Constellation era, especially here, bro. That was hard for me, because we were, Mexicali and all of the politics that were going into Constellation, and we were a part of them. So people boycotting Constellation were boycotting us just by proxy. Yeah. And it was tough, because we were trying to still tell people, hey guys, no, we're still just a couple of knuckleheads trying to make the best beer possible and try to get it. We're actually trying to bring up craft beer, still under Constellation Brands, but that message got lost right away. But what they did do right was exactly what you were doing. They allowed exposure to us, and they also were able to teach us a lot about, a lot of things that a big company would teach you. It's not all bad. Big companies know a thing or two about it.
At the end of the day, it kind of sucks when people say like, oh, you're a sellout, to like bands or whatever. But at the end of the day, what's your ultimate goal is to like get to be known by not only your local area, but like worldwide, So, it kind of sucks when people call somebody a sellout for, signing a big record deal or signing a big contract with a bigger company. But, at the end of the day, that's your ultimate dream, like to be known by.
Well, people like to do that. They like to do that in music. They like to be the first one that heard them. And then they like to be the only people that listen to them. And I go, there is something cool about that. I understand that. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what the philosophy behind it is. I think it's an identity thing, a personal thing. But if you really want the best for whoever you really like, you would want exposure for them, right? And you would want them to couple themselves with a corporation or a company or something that's going to propel them so that they can continue doing what they love to do, right? Like if you kept your favorite band under wraps and you had control about how far their reach is, and you just kept it to yourself, they would go hungry really quickly. Yeah. They wouldn't get paid anymore. And then they stop making music. So what are you really trying to do here? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like, and you see it with like YouTubers or podcasters, even with Joe Rogan signed with Spotify. People were giving him shit, but at the end of the day, it's like, he's going with the platform that's the most popular at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's like, even YouTubers or influencers, if you want to call them that, like on Instagram, whatever. But YouTubers, when they go to TV or movies, people call them sellouts or whatever. But, they can't, be on YouTube hoping that you would sponsor them or buy this from them. But, if somebody else is going to give them the money that they're seeking out, it's like, they're going to do it. I mean, I would do it.
I would do it.
Yeah.
You would do it. Everybody that I've talked to about the Ballast Point sellout would do it.
Yeah,
and that's the funniest thing. They were like, well, after they're done with their little, their tirade, they go, yeah, but I would have done it. And I'm like, what? Why didn't you just start with that?
Yeah.
You just could have just started with that. We could have talked about something else. But you know what? We learned a lot. I am appreciative of a lot of the people that I met that work at Constellation are dope. I mean, they're just cool people. Not every big corporation is out to kill, and if they are, the people at the bottom of the organizational chart, they're typically not on the same page, And so one of the things that's been kind of cool is for me to see both sides of it, because I love the beer geeks. They help me more than anybody probably, but everyone just needs to relax. It's just beer guys. It's all good.
And at the end of the day, the community that was, speaking of Mexicali and the Constellation, they were able to fight off, the big corporation not opening their,
That's kind of cool.
So, it kind of shows to you that, it's a big corporation, but if you really don't want them in your area, you can.
That is such a good point, dude. I think that's probably the most important takeaway of all this. So the fact that we're not with Constellation anymore was because that there was a mismatch, whether it was politics, whether it was the beer, whatever it was. It wasn't a match made in heaven, which to me, and what every craft beer geek out there that really champions independence should think about is that it didn't work. We won, or they won, or whatever won. You can't just come in and take over craft beer because you think you can. And that's not a slight on Constellation, because like I said, Constellation is doing big things, man, and they're big for a reason. But we weren't able. It was oil and water, and what was nice is that was recognized on both ends. It was recognized by us, and it was recognized by them. We gave a nice little handshake and say, "Hey, man, let's agree that this is not working out," and it was cool. You know what I mean? You can see the kids on the weekend or whatever, and that was it. And it was great.
Especially because a lot of the times when there's this separation between, after you've been bought by a big corporation, when there's a separation, a lot of the times it means that not the big corporation, but the smaller company is going to, eventually die out. But, Ballast Point is still strong, is still striving. So, it goes to show that, it wasn't a good match. There was, Ballast Point was, still, it was good enough that they were able to, separate from them and still strive,
Kins and Convicts, who owns Ballast Point now, they're the ones. They came in, they believed in us. They bought us. They brought us back into independence, and now we're rocking and rolling again, dude. And it's been fun, because beer should be fun. Every time that I've been with Ballast Point 10 and a half years now. And every single time that they ask me what I do, anybody asks me what I do, and I tell them that I work for Ballast Point or I work for a brewery or whatever, everybody has the same reaction. It's always like, what? That's awesome. Oh my God, I wish I could. And these are like doctors and lawyers sometimes that are like, dude, you make 1,000 times more than I do. And you're jealous of me. You're envious of what I do, which tells me something. It tells me that there's this perception of what it means to be in the beer industry or the wine industry or whatever. And so it's my duty to make sure that perception lives up to that perception, right? So it's kind of like, how much would it suck if you're like, oh, dude, you must love your job. You work for Burning. It sucks, dude. It sucks. I hate this. You'd be like, really? That's a bummer. Wow, that really sucks, right? You don't want to hear that. You want to hear that the thing that you're enjoying, for the sake of enjoyment, by the way, is being made by people that are really digging what they do. You think about that when it comes to movies. You think like that when it comes to art. You want to know that the artists put their soul and their passion into whatever they're creating. And when if you ever hear somebody like, it sucks, and I really don't care about it, and I really don't actually try too much, then you'll be like, oh, why am I buying you then, man? Like, that sucks. So I try my hardest to make sure that it stays that way. And everybody listening that has a job knows, A lot of times it's up to us to flavor the job or to flavor the industry with our commitment and our passion. That's what's going to make it cool, not the other way around, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And having that 9 to 5 job, maybe where it's like the same thing over and over, kind of like
monotonous. It's like, oh, here we go again.
And for you, that you're talking to different people and obviously enjoying a beer like
many beers, many beers.
It's too
many beers.
It would be strange for people to, or for you to say like that you don't enjoy what you do.
It's kind of like what it wasn't my hobby, right? Making beer wasn't my hobby, but drinking beer and talking to great people and interesting people was definitely my hobby, something I enjoyed. So I said, hey, somebody out there is getting paid to do this. Can I get paid to do this? Can I make my life about this? And I tried hard to do it, and I'm doing it. You know what I mean? And so one of the nice things about being able to sit down with you and have a conversation over a couple of beers in a place in my hometown, dude, making beers. I never would have thought in my wildest dreams, other than me wanting to do it, that there would be a brewery in Calexico, let alone called Calexico Brewing. Yeah. And so I talk to these guys, you're here all the time. And to me, that's so important because and don't worry about time, honestly, dude.
You're sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm looking at my clock and there's a couple of things that
don't even trip. I like this. I always have to give that expectation, and I'll leave when I have to. But I like the conversation. So what I was saying is that if you can imagine, have you ever played The Sims? Have you ever played like those city building?
I haven't played The Sims
or whatever,
but I play like simulation games. SimCity.
Yeah. Any games that you have to like build a town, right? They kind of all have the same start. You build a city. And if you were building a city, there's a few like institutional pillars that you just have to have in a city. We all understand that you need these things to make a city work, right? You need the fire department, right? You need the library, you need the post office, School. You need the police department. Like we all know that when you're building a city, those things just have to happen, right? They have to go in there. Kind of in a weird way, you want a restaurant, you put a restaurant in a city. And in my world, and in probably everybody's world at this point in San Diego and Denver and Portland and scattered across the United States, they would go like, oh, they can't imagine a city without a brewery. You have to ask yourself why that is. Because for a lot of people, it's just a commodity. It's like, oh, beer is just there for fun. And if you like it, great. But if you don't, who needs it? But you would probably, if you were doing your part, if you were doing your service as a city planner, you'd say there needs to be a bar or there needs to be a brewery, right? And they would ask you why. And you would be like, well, probably because that's a place where people need to go to have conversations, to exchange ideas, to, decompress, to sulk. And that just goes to show you how important like a place like Calexico Brewing is, a place like Meshka, a bar, these are important places because there's no other place right now, especially now, where I can sit down for this long with somebody and have a conversation with you without having to look at a phone, think about, what I have to do, what I didn't do, all of that crap just kind of like takes a back seat for a little bit. You pause it and you say, dude, I'm just shooting the shit with my new friend over a couple of beers. And you eliminate the beers and it gets a little bit harder, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, meeting new people, it's, I mean, for our generation, it's kind of hard. And you mix in beer and other things that, that we might have in common that we might not know we have in common. But because we're, just enjoying a beer, it makes it easier.
You say something like liquid confidence and people or social lubricant, and people get like weird. They go like, oh, that sounds like an excuse for alcoholism. For some people it might be, but there's some people that just are not good at breaking ice. There's some people that feel really uncomfortable talking to other people. And we should look at that predicament and say, hey, hold on. It doesn't have to be this way. How about we make it such that you can make it easier for yourself to meet great people, because I've never had a great idea by just sitting sitting with no stimulation, just sitting there with my own thoughts maybe, but my own thoughts come from input, conversations, other people's ideas. That's how my ideas even sprout. So nobody had a great idea sitting in a room by themselves that couldn't tap into other people's ideas. And the best route is through communication, right?
And so, you know what? Some other place that I want to shout out that a lot of people might not know that's popping is 111.
Oh, dude, yeah. What's up with 111?
111 is popping.
I've seen. Yeah. I haven't gone to 111 in a long time.
It's funny because I kind of know the story because one of my friends, close friends, kind of knows the owner. So this girl that has a band, it's called Street Rock. And they play.
Strong name.
They play. They're from Mexicali. They play like rock en español, but they also, mix in like, No Doubt, like all these
cool.
like punk rock.
Cool.
And the girl, like she has a nice voice, so she bought it right before the pandemic. So the pandemic hit, and she was like fucking struggling, like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this? So she started like selling like ceviche and stuff, like just like people picking it up and beers and stuff.
Right.
Like that. So now it's like you go there and like it's kind of full. They have norteño on certain days, but yeah, 111 is like.
Here's a question for you, because I'm really focused on thinking about ideas that are going to make what you're talking about, what happens at this 111 bar, sprinkling that across different spots, and what do places need to do to bring the vibe, to create those environments again. And if you do that well enough, then you inject life back into a city.
Yeah.
You inject life back into this place. And I know there's plenty of people doing it, by the way. I don't mean to say that like we need this and this is our idea. No, there's plenty of people doing it, but it does need help. Yeah. And you do need extra like-minded individuals, young entrepreneurs with this kind of mindset that are going to take it to the next level. This place, Calexico, has always had the mineral dense soil. Like if something's gonna grow out of this, something mighty is gonna grow out of this.
I think the thing that everybody says that kind of gets tired or boring is like, Calexico has potential.
Yeah, right.
But it's like, but it has potential, but like we've heard it like for years, but
it's true.
It's like it doesn't, produce. Where's that? The seed. Where is it gonna grow? Who's gonna grow it?
Who's gonna water it? Yeah, dude, exactly. So that's a good question. That's a question that I think everybody should be thinking about. And this is a topic for another conversation when Ernie jumps on. But, the things that we're trying to do with Down in the Valley, which is a new nonprofit organization that when I came down, me and Ernie had already been talking a long time on how to create a resource and a tool for the Imperial Valley that's going to focus on arts, music, trade work, all that stuff. And when I came back down for this small amount of time that I'm going to be here, I said, Ernie, let's do it. Let's go. And so Meshka is transforming into, Down in the Valley, which is our new nonprofit organization where we're going to concentrate on some of these things. And we want to bring people into it because the truth of the matter, and people always ask me like, dude, I don't get this Down in the Valley thing. What are you trying to do? And I go like, dude, I'm just trying to start a gang. I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm just trying to start a gang that does dope shit. That's it. Like for the community. And I want it to be, and this might be reckless optimism, but I just kind of want it to be a rec center where people feel comfortable going in there and meeting other like-minded individuals, hungry, aspirational artists, musicians, a place where we can teach the trades that will spit you out into the world with at least some sort of understanding about how to do a particular job. Yeah. I want to go out there and do community outreach. I want to, is some old lady's front yard growing out of control because she just lost her husband and she has no money or nobody to come cut her grass? It's all good. Let's go knock on our door. Say, hey, we got you. Let's take care of our community. Yeah. You know what I mean? Let's take care of our people in our community, and let's build a crazy big ass gang of people that just want to see this county succeed in a different way, in an elevated way. Not everybody likes or feels comfortable under fluorescent lights in a classroom setting. So we're trying to make that be another option.
And I think there's a lot of people that that want that, but they just need that leadership,
Yeah.
They just need somebody that, it's not telling them what to do, but like telling them where to go.
Yeah.
Hey, go here and how about this person or paint this wall or like all these different things.
Right.
That,
Right.
They just need that, like, because they're not confident enough to go like, hey, can I paint your wall? And I'll do it for free.
Yeah.
They lack
We just want to help. That, and we go back to the beautiful art of conversation that places like this can start to build, right? Like, come in, get juiced off a couple of beers, and then start really relishing in how beautiful it is to talk to people again and build a tight-knit community. And that tight-knit community can make fucking mountains move. You know that. I know that. Everybody listening knows that. We all need a starting place. And like I said, again, always tipping the hat to the organizations that are already doing it. You're already doing it. Calexico's already doing it. Caleciano needs change, or Calexico needs change. They're already doing it. And you see that when crisis strikes, everybody starts to band together. But what happens in that interstitial space when there's not this high and mighty mission? Like, you should still have that.
Yeah.
You should still have it. And like I said, bring us back on and we'll talk about that. But I take all of these ideas, I got all of these ideas, honestly, in a bar.
You know what? Going back to you mentioned Calexico. Calexico needs to change. There's, like I mentioned before, we got to find that one link that's going to bring them all together.
Beer, bro. Your podcast and beer. That's what's going to link us all together, dude. You're linking people together. You know that. You know that, right?
I hope so.
No, you are.
My goal is to, like I've always said, it's to have a good conversation, and for me and whoever's listening to learn something. Because at the end of the day, like I'm somebody that's always learning. That's how we grow. That's how we become better people. Yeah. Learning and listening. I think a lot of times we forget to listen to other people. We just want to like talk and talk and talk. But to me, it's like, it's kind of hard for me to, for people to interview me because, I'm used to like listening to other people.
I get it.
And it's, but I mean, you like, I don't know if you like talking, but
I love talking. You can tell.
Yeah. But it's like, sometimes I have a hard time talking, especially like people that know me that know that I have a podcast. Like, you have a podcast? You don't even.
Well, dude, you have the most important part, the ability to listen. That's what it's all about. People think an interviewer is, and I've learned this throughout, I don't know how many podcasts that I've done, been a guest on and hosted. The most important part is not how to eat up the dead space. It's about creating the dead space. Yeah. And people don't get that because they're like, well, no. Because everybody's so used to these espresso shots of content. They want reels and they want this and they want Vince Vaughn going blah. And I go like, dude, that's fun. It's entertaining. But you're not learning anything. Sit down and listen to a podcast. And some of the most captivating episodes of any podcast that I've ever listened to are a very slow cadence with a lot of gaps. Because what's going to create the best answer is thinking about it. People think that you have to have the answer right away, but it's a podcast. It's a real conversation. Yeah. And so people go, you're like, as a host, you're like, oh shit, like I'm losing this guy. Like there's dead space. I hate dead space. But that's the most beautiful thing. You want dead space because it means that your guest is thinking about it. And when they're thinking about it, the answer is going to be monumental. Or at least it's going to be way better. Yeah,
to me, it's something that kind of like, when I'm doing a podcast that kind of like motivates me or snaps me out of that, is I'm not doing a good job, is when people tell me, people I'm interviewing tell me like, oh, that's a good question. Yeah. And they stop and think about it. That's what kind of like makes me think like, you know what, I'm not as bad as an interviewer as
dude, look, let me tell you, and I'm not a master in the space by any means, but as one podcaster to another, you are really good. And that's what I was telling you earlier before we even started recording. Like, I'm listening to your shows. I love what you're doing. And you're good. You don't think you're good, because I don't think I'm good either. I don't listen to any of my shows.
Oh, me neither.
I hate it. Yeah, it's nails on a chalkboard. Yeah. I hate doing it. And
even when I'm editing, because I edit my own shit. So like when I edit stuff, like,
that's tough. Yeah, I can't do that. Yeah. I can't do that. But again, also I can't listen to myself, and there's plenty of people that don't want to listen to me. But the vibe, if you do it right, if you're doing it for the right reason, it's worth it. And it's worth your time. And what you're doing with your show is worth everybody's time. Even if it's just in this city, even if it's just provincial, even if it's just Calexico. I mean, hence the name, right? But like what I mean is like, even if it doesn't make it outside of this county, what you're doing is monumentally important, because the people that don't feel comfortable knocking on that door to see if the old lady wants help, those are the people that need to hear the message. They need to hear the call for action. Yeah. They're the ones that are going to show up, because they're the listeners. They're not the communicators. They're the listeners and the doers. And I don't know. I think everybody that I've seen make something out of themselves coming from the Imperial Valley have been passionate and so orgullosos of where they came from, whether it's El Centro, whether it's Calexico specifically. I mean, I talk to people from El Centro and they're like, yeah, I love El Centro, blah, blah, blah. But I talk to people from Calexico and they're like, Caleciano, homie, like we are one. And I go, that's great, because I hear it from everybody. Yeah. But when are we going to unite? When are we actually going to become one, fool? Yeah. You know, like that stopped after high school, you know? So I think there's an opportunity for us to really take it to the next level. I'm not saying that I'm going to, you know, be a needle mover, or that anybody here is going to be a needle mover, but I will say that all of us together are going to be needle movers. You know what I mean? And I think I think there's something big that's festering. I think there's something big. Yeah. I see it more.
Yeah. I think I've been feeling like that for the last, maybe when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
A little bit before that también, porque I don't know, like I started talking to all these people, and like all of a sudden I started like seeing like these people like behind, you know, doors, like talking to themselves. So, you know, people are starting to notice each other. Yeah. And hopefully, you know, they just, like I said, going back to the link, missing that link that's going to make sure that they all come together somehow, some way. And
so you see it. You see it. Mm-hmm. What do you think it is? Well, I mean, because we both know that there's a link that needs to be put there in order for it to build a bridge. But what do you think is bringing up a lot more of that awareness? Is it because of the Que Pasa Calexico and all the stuff like that? Do you think it's because people have just started to get more creative?
No, I think they're, I think, you know, they've been creative. They're just maybe reaching out more, like networking more with each other. Because a key part of being successful is networking, like making sure that people know who you are and where you're at. So I think like they might be networking somewhere else, but they need to network with each other first, and then, you know, network with each other first, and then they're gonna network with the people that they network with, and then, you know, make those links, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think, I don't know, hopefully very soon we get that.
Well, we're getting news a lot faster, not just with your podcast, but like, I don't know, you know, the Desmadre Calexico or something like that. There's like an Instagram handle. Right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them right now. Yeah.
And I'm just like, geez, I need those people. Like, I need the guys that are out there, you know, highlighting what's happening, right? Or at least, even if it's misguided, or even if it's misconstruing the information, there's an opportunity there, though, to get a handle on it and say, hey, hold on, I said what you posted, and I know your take on it, but this is how it's actually going. And that fluidity of information coming between, you know, the city council or the government and the people and vice versa, I think that's really important in all of this as we grow, to develop a trust within our little small government, and knowing that, you know, we have opinions as citizens, you have opinions and policies as lawmakers, and we don't have to be at odds here. Like, there's a beautiful opportunity here for us to be like a lot more synergistic, and your podcast is a great platform for that, where people can come in and just talk the talk.
Yeah. And I think my biggest thing is like, I don't see my podcast as a political thing, as more as an art, you know, like not an artsy, but like people that are creative. And obviously I do like talking to politicians, especially in election season, because I want to inform my community of who's running and who they are and get to know them. But, you know, at the end of the day, like if I want to help the community or my city, you know, it has to be political sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think since like 2016, like politics have changed a lot, where it's like so polarized. You're either here or there.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's also hurting small communities like ours.
Yeah.
Where like there's no in between. Like, oh, you're either with him or you're with me. And because I've had that, you know, from people that I've talked to that I thought were kind of like my friends, or like, oh, you know, I heard you like promote something from that page or this person. So like, oh, I'm like, dude, like, you know, it's become like so polarized and
it's a tough place to be, man. It's a tough place to be on a political spectrum. But once you kind of just say, I'm not on any spectrum. Like I'm not like on any side of the debate. I'm on the me side of the debate. And what I think we should do. And there's a little bit of this side that I agree with. There's a little bit of this side that I agree with. And you don't see it yet, but if you just kind of take a step back and look at it dispassionately, there's a little bit of there's a little bit of their side that you even agree with, you know, but I think that there's a bunch of work to be done, but I think it can be done. And that's why I'm excited. You know, that's why I'm excited about seeing different platforms and different information platforms on Instagram, on Facebook, on our podcast, or this and that. I think it's good, man. I think it's a rolling boil that's about to happen.
And I think that's what kind of got me excited to, after I heard, you know, podcast where you were on, you're really outspoken in a good way. You know, you're not
thanks.
like, you know, you're not like, picking sides or whatever, but like you have a really good voice. You talk really well. People like, especially me, like when I hear you, like I believe what you say. So like, it's exciting to see somebody like you come into the Valley and start like the Down Here in the Valley kind of, you know, that organization. And because, you know, a lot of the people that want to do change are quiet, or political. Yeah. And you're not either one of those. Like you're not political and you're not, you know, you have this loud voice where, you know, people who are going to hear you are going to listen. Even if you have to go to a city council meeting or a county or a board of supervisor meeting and talk, they're going to hear you. And it's not political in any way.
Thanks, man. I really do appreciate that. I try to maintain a neutrality in that sense because it's kind of not like a forced thing. I say that like I try to, but I think it's just natural for you to kind of lean one way or the other, especially in like these weird suction oriented tornadoes. They're trying to take you this way and they're trying to take you that way because they want your vote and they want this and blah, blah, blah. And I've kind of gotten really comfortable with just what I like. And it sounds selfish, but I think we should all be selfish in that sense, where when you want the best thing for your community or your children or your family, if you can just take those concepts and then just blanket them everywhere you go, you're not going to be political because there is no polarization. There's just, I want good things to happen. And I'm open to discussing how those things will happen. And it gets shoved into the meat grinder, the political system. And so you have to kind of understand that language, and you kind of have to understand that things get misconstrued. And once in a while, you're going to be looking through a kaleidoscope and things are not going to make sense. But if you realize at the end of the day that you have like a moral compass, like you have a code, right, that you just won't budge on. And that code is set on just having everybody have a chance, giving people support, helping our brothers and sisters within our own community to excel, to tap into creativity and let them shine. Some people need help on that. I know I did. So I think that it's a great idea to just to remind everybody that you don't need to pick a side. The only side that you really need to be on is what your own side and what you think is good. And good things will come from that.
I think, you mentioned moral compass, and that's something that I always, you know, when I when I get people trying to pull me either way, like, you know, that's where I guide myself with my moral compass, you know. And, you know, I don't know, I feel that it's hard to sometimes like make decisions when people are, you know, I don't know, like it gets hard here in the Valley. You know, I've been here 30 some years. And, you know, I've been thinking of getting into politics, but that moral compass is something that's kind of like guiding me not to go that way.
I think that you should definitely be involved in or around politics, because after listening to you and after talking to you today, I know you're about the good shit. You know, like you just meet people that you go like, damn, I wish somebody would just listen to his ideas or her ideas because they get it. But like you said, that moral compass is like, once you enter the political game, it's like the Bermuda Triangle. Like your compass just starts spinning. You don't know where the fuck you are. And it's kind of like, what are we doing here? And so I think that when you can learn how to navigate in and out, it's kind of like a boxer, you're in and out of that space, you'll be better for it. So I'm happy to hear that you're even thinking about that, because we still do need people to want to enter the space, or else there's really not going to be a real change, unfortunately. But fortunately enough, because politics doesn't have to be bad.
No, the thing is, like,
have to be bad.
I think what's kind of kept me also out of it is the podcast. Whereas, like, if I'm a city council member, I think most of my time would be like my home, my family, and then extra time would be city council, like trying to make sure that I'm 100% involved in, you know, things that are going on in the community. Like even the weekends this is when I do the podcast on the weekends. Or my free time is like, I would probably want to spend it in city council stuff. So I don't know if I'm doing more for my community with this or the city, or being involved in city council.
I would say, just dispassionately, like the way that I've seen it so far, I think the podcast is your best platform right now. I think that what you're doing is important. I think I think you're actually doing more with this podcast than what you would probably be doing involved in city council. And you're freer. It's yours. You don't have to be beholden to anybody's ideology. You don't have to get that weird feeling of like, oh, I want to talk about this and say this, but I can't because this guy is funding this and I'm whatever. Like all of that bullshit, dude. You have your show and you can bring on people with their ideas, and no one's going to shoot you because you brought somebody that was opposing their ideas, and we can all be friends. You are doing really, 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 really good things with this show. So don't let this go. I love it, man. I'm going to tell you right now, I really started listening to it because you had asked me to be on the show. So I really started listening to a few episodes, and I really love what you're doing. You're good at it. You listen, and you're giving the city a voice.
Thank you.
Oh, hell yeah,
Thank
dude.
you. I appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes it gets hard because like the numbers don't reflect a lot on...
They never do. They won't.
And it's like, but I know how we're behind, and, you know, a lot of people don't know what a podcast is. Oh, where did I listen to you on the radio? I'm like, the fuck? The radio.
The radio? What is that? How do those work?
I think people like YouTube, so that's why I do the video too.
You have to have the video, dude. That's a good point.
So, and because for a while I was like, I'm not gonna do the video no more because it takes longer to edit and upload, and so it's like, but then people are like, hey, where's the video? I'm like, fuck, okay, I'll upload the video. But I feel that when it comes to election season, a lot of people listen. A lot of people chime in or reach out. So I think in that sense, you know, that's why I feel like I need to keep doing this.
You have to. I'm telling you, you have to. Don't ever think about stopping it. You're doing a service to the city, and then you're also doing a service to everybody that's jumping on the show because they're able to express themselves. And a lot of times when you walk into X Cafe or, you know, Menudo this or mom and pop shop this, they're in business mode. You can walk into their establishment, but they're in business mode. They don't have time to tell you their story. They don't have time to tell you why they're there, what got them there, why this matters so much to them. The show gives an opportunity for people to tell their story. And in a world, and this is kind of like what I was talking about on the Odd Pairing podcast with Paige. And it was like, people want stories, man. They want to know what they want to know that what they're voting for, because money's not just flowing out of control. You know, we're not just balling out of control. Yeah. People still need to make those conscientious decisions about where my dollar is going. And so if my dollar is going to go here, it'd be nice to know why it's going here. It'd be nice to know who I'm supporting, why I'm supporting, what their ideas are, who they are. Yeah. And I think that there's an opportunity in this town or in this city to have a very conscientious network of consumers where we go, oh, you know what? I heard you on the podcast, and hell yeah, I love what you're about. This is where I'm going to come now. This is who I want to support. And you can have that. There's enough.
Yeah, and that's why I love like recording. You know, I've recorded here most of the times, but you know, I go other places and record. Like if they let me record at locations, you know, I love it because people see, like if they watch the YouTube video, or even, you know, I always shout out where I'm at if I'm recording in a different place. You know, I love promoting people. I love, you know, putting their voices out there and making sure people in the community know that, yeah, we can go to Mexicali and eat all these different plases, but you know, if you don't want to make that fucking 2-hour line, like there's a lot of places here in Calexico or in the valley that will give you even better tasting food than going to Mexicali, or you know, you don't have to make that 2-hour, you know, long line, stuff like that.
Exactly.
You know, we have, I mean, Calexico and Imperial Valley, you know, there's a lot of, you know, quality, everything, food, art, you know, music, everything. We just got to look for it. And I really hope that I can be a part of it.
You are. That's why you are, dude. You don't have to hope. You are, because like I said, you're doing it. You're doing it. It doesn't feel like you're doing it because you're enjoying a hobby and you actually enjoy this. And sometimes when you're having fun with what you're doing, you might feel like, oh man, I like this so much. Am I really making a difference? It just doesn't have the same impact because the effort's not there. You're not grinding away doing something that you're uncomfortable doing. But you are doing it, and people are going to notice, and your show's going to grow because you're doing it the right way. You're doing it the right way. This is professional, man. I love it, and I respect it.
Another thing is, like, you know, it doesn't look like a professional because I'm using an old phone and an old camcorder, but you know,
you got TikTok people using their selfie sticks doing, you know, 2.5 billion view things, dude. I think you're all right. I think you're doing it all right. Thank
you. So I mean, it's almost 3:40. I don't want to keep you that long.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, ask away, dude. I'm gonna boogie on down to the house. I gotta pick up a load for the refugee thing that's happening up in Jacumba. I'm gonna drop off some stuff. We were in about a day and a half. We were able to raise, just through friends and family, like about a G. Wow. Me and my wife, we went out. We bought diapers, we bought medicine, food for all the kids, we bought waters, we bought sports drinks. We loaded up, and we did already one drop off already in the Jacumba donation center, and then I'm about to do another one today, and then I'm gonna go and catch a NoFX show. So that's really what I'm doing, dude. I gotta go catch that punk rock show.
Yeah, so, for sure.
But dude, what's up? Yeah, ask.
So no, and you know, I don't want to keep you longer. I just want to say that, you know, this is probably not the first time you'll be on.
I hope not. This is cool.
You know, I really enjoy the conversation. But you know, you have this nonprofit going on that hopefully, you know, we get to be on with Ernie and then talk more about it.
Yeah.
But no, to me, like, the only question is, like, you know, do you have anything else that you want to talk about that?
I'll save some of the meat for the next time that we do this, because I'm sure that we'll have this again, because I also enjoyed it. The nonprofit organization, it's a slow moving train, but there's a lot of things that we're trying to get into place so that we can make an impact right away. So I just want to say thank you for everybody that's already shown us some support. We had some merch. We had a merch drop, so we did some shirts, but it was proceeds were coming directly back into the nonprofit organization. We hope in the next couple of weeks to kind of really have the calendar set, workshops, events, like anything. But really what I want to say is that the main goal of this nonprofit is just to help the community in a multitude of ways. We don't really have a very narrow vision of it. It's broad, and I want it to be broad. I want it to be all encompassing. I want it to be a rec center. I want it to be a place where people can come and they can feel comfortable learning there and feel safe and know that that we're doing our part. Starting a gang, right? Doing some cool shit. Yeah. But thanks for sticking with us. For everybody that has already followed us, we've been receiving a lot of support simply based on that small amount of detail when it comes to what our mission is. We've already gotten and received so much support, and I blame Ernie. Ernie is one of the kindest souls that I've probably ever met. Yeah. I wouldn't have done this with anybody else, dude. Yeah. Ernie has been able to really bring awareness, craft beer, art, community driven stuff, arts, music into that downtown region. It's all been him. He's one of the hardest working dudes that I know. And so partnering with him on this new venture, it has been really fun. Christian Torres, he's on our board. He's helping us with, writing grants and trying to get this funded because, at the end of the day, we need to keep the lights on in that place in order for us to do anything in there. Yeah. So, all the support that we've been receiving is so appreciated. We're going to need some more, and just talking about it and voicing the mission and bringing people on board. I tell everybody, you're a part of this. You just don't know it yet. Yeah. If you're here, you're part of it.
And I'll leave a link on where they can, on Instagram, where they can follow.
Oh, thanks, man.
And hopefully in the future we can get down, sit down together, me, you, and Ernie.
Yeah, we'll do it at the clubhouse. We'll do it at our spot, man. Other than that, dude, I work for Ballast Point. So if you see us on the shelf, which I'm very surprised and happy to see Ballast Point around here, dude. I'm like, a Soul Market right here. Shout out, dude. Yeah. They've been carrying our stuff for a long time.
Even on CB Stop.
Yeah. Yes, dude. That place has a wild and crazy cool craft beer selection. Yeah. Shout out to whoever the hell owns that spot or whoever's doing the beer ordering, because I go in there, I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. You've got your Bevmos and you got those guys, but like, if you can find the craft beer that you're looking for and support a smaller store or smaller, liquor shop or a gas station or whatever, do that. Yeah. But Ballast Point, Kings and Convicts, I'm trying to do what I can. I have my podcast dedicated to the craft. You can find that on YouTube, Apple.
It's a little bit of Spotify. Hiatus, but you're coming back, right?
So we're doing a bit of a hiatus right now as we kind of ramp up for some new things that we're going to be launching as far as Ballast Point and Kings and Convicts are concerned. So I've been busy doing all that stuff, but I'm still in the podcast game. Whether it's dedicated to the craft or whether it's my own podcast side hustle. I got some stuff. I got some cool things coming down the pipeline, and I'll jump on again and I'll use that time to promo it. Yeah. But it doesn't need to be Ballast Point, but just drink some good beer. It's your time and it's running out. Yeah. So drink the shit that you like to drink.
In moderation, though.
In moderation. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you for sharing, your story and shooting the shit with me, having some beers.
Hell yeah, man.
And hanging out. Hopefully we get to do it soon again.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed our conversation. And I don't want to keep you any longer because you have places to do and things.
Yeah, dude. Again, if anybody out there wants to help, by the time this airs, I don't know what the situation is going to be, but anytime that this kind of stuff happens, the refugees and everything, there's hungry kids out there that are
it'll probably air maybe tonight or the audio version.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, definitely keep an eye open for. I know that Ivy Equity and Justice has been doing stuff. Ernie has been sharing stuff. I'll try to share some more stuff. I've been busy these last couple of days, but I've been seeing it, but I haven't been able to share. But cool. Yeah, keep an eye out.
All right.
There's a lot of things going on here in the community. But yeah, thank you again for hanging out.
Thank you, dude.
And I really enjoyed the conversation.
I enjoyed this.
Hopefully we do it again. And thank you guys for listening or watching. Thank you, Calexico Brewery, again for letting me hanging out. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.